Nothing But the Truth. Hello, I'm Raj Chengappa from India Today and your host for Nothing But the Truth. Every week, we will deal with key issues of concern and bring you perspectives and clarity as to why these matter to you and what is the clear truth that emerges. We are in the thick of a big political fight for supremacy for 5 important states across India, which are going to polls later this month. These are Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Telangana and Mizoram. This will be the last major political battle before the big general election in 2024, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will seek a re-election as Prime Minister for a third successive stint. While these states contribute around exactly 83 of the 543 Lok Sabha seats, which is a little less than 20% of the total, these polls will set the tone and the narrative for the crucial Lok Sabha campaign next year, especially for the two national parties, the Bharatiya Janata Party or the BJP and the Indian National Congress or INC. The stakes are high. For the BJP, a win in these states would ensure a positive momentum for the party's quest to secure a full majority in the Lok Sabha in 2024, while the Congress is batting in some senses to emerge as the prime challenger to the BJP, apart from enhancing Rahul Gandhi's status to challenge Narendra Modi at the center. So in this episode of Nothing But the Truth, we will analyze what are the key factors that will determine the outcome and the big issues at play. To do that, I'm delighted to welcome psephologist Yashwant Deshmukh, founder director of C-Voter, who conducts India Today's biannual Mood of the Nation poll. Yashwant, welcome to this episode of Nothing But the Truth.
Thank you, Raj. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Yashwant. Let's begin with Madhya Pradesh, which goes to the polls on November 17th. Madhya Pradesh is currently ruled by the BJP, and there are two major stalwarts in the fray. There is BJP's Chief Minister, Shivraj Singh Chauhan, who's vying for a 5th term as Chief Minister. He's already the state's longest serving Chief Minister. And then, of course, there is Kamal Nath, a former Union Minister and Chief Minister for a little over a year before there was a revolt in his party and he was dethroned, and major defection saw the Jyotiraditya faction move to the BJP and Kamal Nath fall. So he's, in some senses, Kamal Nath is seeking retribution in this election. So, Yashwant, in the last assembly polls, there was a neck-on-neck fight with both parties securing 41% of the votes. But it was the Congress that edged ahead, winning 114 of the seats out of the 213 and having to woo other parties to get a full majority. The BJP came a close second with 109 seats. And so, will 2023, the elections that is going to happen now in November, going to be as close a fight? And what, in your opinion, would be the key factors that would determine the outcome of these elections?
Raj, we generally end up discussing anti-incumbency a lot. I've just finished my book, writing my book, The Pro-Incumbency Century, where I've argued on the last 25 years of Indian voters' perception and the elections at play, which have been largely coming out as a pro-incumbency sentiment and what works behind that. Even going beyond that binary, what the new thing that I am learning from data now is that just like as we all know, between the black and white, there is also a shade of gray, which is very unique state of affair in public opinion and public perception. And that is somehow very, very evident in these round of elections.
And when Madhya Pradesh specifically, if you look at Madhya Pradesh?
Yes, specifically when we look at the Madhya Pradesh, because when I look into the 20 years of Shivraj rule, the BJP rule, as you just mentioned in your opening remark, the 5 years back, the election in number of seats, the Congress managed to win more seats, but actually it's the BJP which won more votes than the Congress.
Correct.
So,
in terms of percentage of votes, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's very funny to observe in our data that ideally after 20 years being in power, there should be a very acute anti-incumbency sentiment in play, ideally speaking. But that's not happening. Is there a pro-incumbency sentiment? Even that is not happening. So what is happening is a very weird gray area of fatigue. What looks like from the data, people are not angry with Shivraj.
Right.
People are not upset with Shivraj Singh Chauhan for sure. But there is a growing sense of fatigue. People are kind of bored, a fatigue of continuation of what they see as a big number of non-performing MLAs, fatigue of the same set of big number of ministers and the systems, as they call it, in place. And then to add to the woe, the BJP is facing a big issue which they face in Karnataka as well, is the imported leadership, the number of people they have imported.
In fact, if you take a look at the count of that, there are 8 national leaders, including Union Ministers Narendra Singh Tomar, Fagan Singh Kholaste and Prahlad Patel. And of course, there are other MPs, Riti Patak, I think Rakesh Singh, Rao Uday Pratap Singh, Rakesh Singhal, National General Secretary Kailash Vijayvargiya and State Minister Narottam Mishra. So is this a sign of desperation, do you feel, from the BJP? Is this ploy of bringing all the top leaders that they have in the state, including the national leaders, come, and is that going to make an impact?
Well, I think BJP is trying to answer way too many issues that they have with these kind of strategies. I mean, by fielding these national leaders, number one, they are trying to tell in different parts of the state that, see, if you have a fatigue of the same leadership continuing, we have other options and we might think over them, So don't lose the hope. Don't say that you are just tired and that's why you want to change. Don't do that. On the other hand, they have not given ticket to Jyotiraditya Scindia.
Right.
You see, that's a very, very well played plot in that way, that they want to tell the core voters of the BJP, we have enough leaders in house. Just importing Jyotiraditya Scindia doesn't mean that we are going to give it on a platter to him.
Right.
So they are trying to manage multiple messages because they know that Madhya Pradesh, or Madhya Bharat as you may call it, is the core organizational area of the Bharatiya Janasangh right from 1952.
Right.
And that's an area where the organization produced leader. The organization got the mandates.
Right.
It's not the other way around.
Right.
They made the leaders did not make the organization. So their problem is genuine, and I can understand how they can go away. What I also feel, Raj, is that one thing which BJP is not probably realizing is going against them is the perception and emotion of the Indian voters of disrespecting a mandate.
Right. That's a very
5 years back, people gave a mandate that, okay, let there be a change.
Right.
When BJP disrespected that mandate by, fractionalizing Congress, getting it, 1 year, 1.5 years, whatever the small phase was, that actually has not gone down well with the big number of voters, I would say.
Now, that comes to a very interesting point. Sorry, yes, please finish, yes.
And that includes the BJP voter. Somehow the BJP strategists have this strange feeling that if we make the government, then our voters are going to be happy. They are forgetting that the BJP's core voter is the voter which continues in the old Janasangh phrase of mind, where they talk about the value-driven politics or electoral politics, which is not Congressy by nature.
Very good point. I think that's a very good point, because then the BJP is seen as a party like with no difference, though they claimed it was a party with a difference in the past.
Exactly. The party with the difference was the driving force.
Correct.
And now with the not just the Congressization of the BJP in terms of importing the leaders, but also about disrespecting the mandate of bringing down the opposition government, installing your own government. That is not something which goes well with the core BJP voters.
And that's, I think, a very, very good point you made, Yashwant, in the sense that the opportunistic way the BJP has gone about it, even in Maharashtra, we've seen that is not really enhancing their image as a party that is clean, that wants to bring in, a revolution in terms of governance. You're going back, as you said, to the Congressization. But let me come to Kamal Nath and the Congress, because there is a chance for Kamal Nath to win this, because, as you say, there is a certain amount of sympathy for the way he was thrown out of this. How have you seen Kamalnath's strategy? You know, the Congress has focused as usual on guarantees. They are using the Karnataka model to come up with a lot of these promises that are there. And they seem to have worked there in Karnataka. Is it going to work here? You know, they have these free education up to class 12, monthly scholarships of 500 to 1,500, if I remember. There was units of power that were to be distributed free, and also for every woman 1,500, which is to combat what Shivraj Singh Chauhan is doing in terms of giving money to the women, and of course unemployed youths. I mean, that's the broad base. Is this strategy of the Congress working out?
Well, for all practical reasons, Raj, this is the Kamal Nath versus the BJP organization election.
Very good point.
I mean, for all practical purposes.
Yes.
And Kamal Nath has very intelligently gone beyond his own way of doing the politics. Very intelligently, he has kind of tried to deliver a message that my party might be thinking different in many of the things, particularly when you take the issues of Hindutva, Hanumanji, and my faith, and being a practicing Hindu. But this is me as Kamal Nath, who is a different leader altogether.
Right.
You know, I guess that many of the Congress leaders and chief ministers per se have started doing the same. We have seen Bhupesh Baghel in Chhattisgarh doing the same.
Right.
You know, he has in the last 5 years never really criticized Narendra Modi as a leader of this country.
Right.
He has never really criticized, any pro-Hindu emotion or sentiment. You know, they have somehow managed to take a line where they say our party is secular, but I am a devout, faithful Hindu.
And you know, Kamal Nath even mentioned this time, I mean, in the most recent election rally that he had, that it was Rajiv Gandhi, when he was Prime Minister, who opened the locks of Babri, locks of the Ayodhya temple over there. So, he is playing that soft Hindutva card to the hilt. So, as you rightly said, Bhupesh Baghel is. But I wanted one point in this. You know, you mentioned two leaders. Now, both these leaders are being projected, even in Chhattisgarh, as the Chief Minister's candidate virtually. But in the BJP, we see, as we would study the other states as well, that it is Narendra Modi that is getting the face of the party. And, much of the votes depend. Is this a strategy that is going to work, where the Congress is depending on regional satraps to do it, but the BJP seems to fall back on Narendra Modi? Is that a paucity on the BJP's sort of bank, that they have to look upon Mr. Modi as, the prime vote catcher again?
Well, they were always looking on Mr. Modi as a prime voter catcher. What has changed is the political strategy of going ahead with a face. And that is a bit confusing. It might or it might not work.
Right.
I mean, the day the election results happen, we will be sitting again in a couple of days after the 3rd of December verdict, Raj. And, if it works for them, we will say that, wow, it worked. But the conventional wisdom, again, as just looking at the branding of the politics, the brand equity of the BJP, as we said, party with a difference. Similarly, it was BJP's equity, BJP's brand of politics, forcing Congress or giving their faces and forcing Congress to say, who is your team leader?
Correct. And Modi was Mr. Modi was the prime example of that in Gujarat. I mean, they had very strong state leaders, but now we see that they are pushing aside the state leaders. Even Vasundhara Raje in Rajasthan, they don't seem to be focusing. So what is your sense of what are they trying? They think that Mr. Modi will pull out off, and what is your tracking showing? Is that really a thing that will get them the majorities that they want in these states?
Well, the trackers so far has been showing that, it's just like the MOTN, the trends that we captured in our
Mood of the Nation poll
issue,
yes.
Our 15th August issue, that Rajasthan is still showing an anti-incumbency sentiment in favor of the BJP.
Right.
Madhya Pradesh is closely contested, but still, the default anti-incumbency or the sense of fatigue is actually helping the Congress.
Right.
And the fact that Kamal Nath is not making any blunders to spoil the chances. He is passively aggressive. When I say passively aggressive, he is ensuring that he doesn't do any blunder that its central leadership is so always eager to do.
Right.
Like in the case of Palestine and Hamas, releasing pro-Palestine issue statement, but not criticizing Hamas in the one go. So Kamal Nath is very clear So is the case of Chhattisgarh, Bhupesh Baghel. But Chhattisgarh again is actually closer than what everybody is
Right.
thinking.
It was thought that
Yeah.
Bhupesh Baghel, with his leadership and the fact that the Congress had settled that whole battle with TSDO and made him the deputy chief minister, that had been sorted out. So this was a clear win for him. But you are saying the gap is narrowing.
The gap is narrowing, but I believe that gap is narrowing largely because of the fact, Raj, that 5 years back, Congress actually got disproportionate number of
Correct.
seats in Chhattisgarh.
Yeah.
You know, it did not deserve to win those many seats, honestly speaking. Even the Congresses know, I mean, they did not deserve it. But that's how the mandates work. Sometimes when you cross a threshold of votes in a certain way, in this system, you do end up with a disproportionate number of seats. So I believe that the contest is closing largely because of the fact
I just wanted to, when you were saying disproportionate number of seats, from whatever facts are there, Congress had won 43% of the votes, right? Defeating the incumbent BJP party, which was that time led by Raman Singh, and BJP got 33% of the votes. Right. There is a huge gap in that sense. But
there
of
was
course,
a huge gap.
They ended up with 60 of the 90 seats. And the BJP got only 30.
But the number of seats, it was a huge gap. But as you know, the regional variations in the north and the south and the central Raipur. The central Raipur region, which is like the hugest chunk of Chhattisgarh as a state, you know, that is where the key contest was. And in that key contest, BJP ended up losing way too many seats, even their strongholds, by a smaller margins. So it's basically the non-performing of the Congress MLAs.
Right.
You know,
okay. Not so much the Bhupesh Baghel leadership, but the Congress.
No, not at all. Bhupesh Baghel is extremely popular. Not at all. That's the funny thing. Bhupesh Baghel is extremely popular. It is the non-performing, unpopular MLAs and also the big number of MLAs who I would say by fluke. You know, where actually it was a BJP constituency, but because a wave sort of came in and they just won. And they just won by fluke in that way. So the contest is closing because BJP is kind of taking back those seats. So that is why it is looking closer by the day. But make no mistake, CM is extremely popular in Chhattisgarh. CM is not unpopular in Madhya Pradesh, but a fatigue is there. Right.
That's a good point. But I think let us just look before you come. I want to come back to Rajasthan, but just a quick word on Chhattisgarh. The fact that Raman Singh, the former chief minister, who was 3 times chief minister and everything else, is not being projected, and only now I think they're realizing that probably the BJP had a good chance if it did do it. Is that a factor, that their late start over there, their lack of a proper campaign strategy? Normally you think the BJP is such a election machine that it has got 5 leaders out there doing everything. They seem to have slackened a bit. Is that going to be a problem?
Well, they gave him the ticket, but they still haven't projected him as the chief ministerial face. And the fact is that in the absence of any face, even though he was not projected, still about 25%, 26% of people in our trackers kept on bringing up his name as a possible CM candidate. So I think that BJP somehow might have tried or might have thought of giving, just like in Karnataka, even after the defeat. I believe that BJP managed the leadership thing for a long-term place in a better way.
Because a new generation of leaders they thought they wanted to bring forth.
They phased out Yediyurappa, but they gave an alternative face. But in case of Chhattisgarh, for that matter, or in Rajasthan for that matter, they decided they have to phase out, but they were unable to come up with an alternative face. So that's a big problem. And when they were unable to come, now they are in a catch-22 because they do not want to project this guy, but they know they don't have any other option or solution. So it's 1 step forward, 2 step backward kind of a situation. Now,
yes, go ahead.
They are putting it in the Prime Minister Modi's name that somehow let us bring up and take in the anti-incumbency sentiment and put Prime Minister Modi's face and see if that works.
Well, it's a bit risky for them. And let's come to Rajasthan, where, you touched on this briefly. Now, in Rajasthan, if you notice, they have 200 seats, right? And last time, In 2018, the Congress actually got less percentage of votes than the BJP. They had 0.5% less than what the BJP was, 39.3 for the Congress and 38.8. Sorry, there was 0.5% more, slightly more than that was there. Sorry, it was the reverse that should have been there.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but we saw the Congress get 100 seats, like in MP, they had to cobble a majority together with Ashok Gehlot emerging as the chief minister, and that's when the Sachin Pilot revolt started beginning. Of course, that revolt now has, somewhat, there seems to be in a patch-up, and they are fighting unitedly together. The BJP, on the other hand, again, this problem that you were mentioning about, has a surfeit of leaders vying for the chief minister's post. Vasundhara Raje was seen as the stalwart and, probably the best face that is there, but they believe a whole new crop should come. And so we have, Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, the union minister, apart from the Rajya Sabha MP Kirodi Lal Meena, also part of the fight. And there's a whole other, if you want to add Mr. Birla also, Om Birla there. So how close is the fight there? You said anti-incumbency is going to determine some of that. Is whatever the BJP does, you think it will be the anti-incumbency that will finally win the day for the BJP and not so much whatever they did with the leaders and everything?
Rajasthan is very uniquely placed, Raj. 5 years back, Rajasthan Congress should have won at least 130, 135 seats.
Given the trend, yes.
Yeah, they did not win because of the strategically placed rebel candidates by Mr. Gehlot. Right. Because Mr. Gehlot was very clear that if Sachin Pilot manages to win 120, 130 seats, the High Command is not going to make me the chief minister. It was in his interest that Congress is just bare enough, and then the High Command says that, okay, you can only manage, so why don't you
high
be the
politics,
chief?
Yes.
Exactly. And this is an old practice of Rajasthan. Mr. Bhairo Singh Shekhawat used to do that with the BJP.
Right.
When the BJP contested without Mr. Shekhawat,
right,
in full force as an organization, they won a huge mandate in post Shekhawat scenario.
Right.
So now the question is, what Mr. Gehlot did 5 years back, is Vasundhara Raje going to do this time?
Interesting.
That's the big question, and for that you need to look into the candidate selection. Right. And whatever my team has been telling me and other journalists have been telling me, that BJP has not done that mistake and actually has accommodated big number of Raje's supporters on her demand into the ticket distribution.
Right.
Even though their problem remains the same, they wanted to phase out Ms. Raje. They could not give an alternative leadership at all. And in the Caste 22, they are again back to the square one, where they have given ticket to Mrs. Raje. They have given tickets to supporters of Mrs. Raje, is still not fully given her name as the chief ministerial candidate.
And your tracker is showing what on Rajasthan at the moment?
Tracker has been showing consistently there is a huge anti-incumbency building up against the sitting MLAs, which Mr. Gehlot now cannot do anything about, because he had carried all those MLAs. His support base was those. So he could not chop down the tickets, which is not the case with Mr. Baghel. Right. If you look into the ticket distribution, Bhupesh Baghel has managed to chop down a significant number of MLAs.
Yes, and that was the one factor in Chhattisgarh that could have harmed the Congress. And
exactly. Yeah. And in case of Madhya Pradesh, Mr. Kamalnath doesn't have to do that because all those questionable MLAs have already switched over to the BJP.
Correct. Yes.
But in case of Rajasthan, Mr. Gehlot cannot do it, simply cannot do it, because it's the same MLAs that he has continued to be in power because of them. And it's not possible for him to chop down the tickets. But come to think of it, Raj, as a journalist, as an editor, working journalist like me and you, in the last 5 years, how many positive headlines did you see from Rajasthan coming?
Correct. Yeah. And all you saw was a lot of dogfight going on between the two, rather than, the kind of development that Gehlot says he had done, the kind of schemes that he brought out and everything else. Yes.
So once you have done that kind of damage to the party structure for 4.5 years, I doubt that 6 months of bonhomie is going to cover it up. It's unusual to think that way.
Right.
Besides, Rajasthan has a very settled pendulum scenario. 5 years this way, 5 years that
for
way.
Almost 4 decades, it has always switched parties. Without fail, yes.
Exactly, without fail they have done it. So I don't see a reason, from conventional analysis, I don't see a reason why shouldn't the Congress go in Rajasthan. Just going, not even looking into the data, looking
Right.
at the headlines, looking at the
Just the
state
logic of it.
just the
And
logic.
let's also give
Just the
credit to the people of India. They have great common sense. Whatever we might try to do on the other front, they vote with their minds and their heart, and actually come out most in most elections get it right. But I want to come to Telangana, and this is, in the other three states it was a straight fight between the BJP and the Congress, much to the angst of India, the new formation, where the Congress is seen to be dominating and doesn't want to share, and that might set the trend for the opposition politics. But here in Telangana, there seems to be suddenly a rebirth of the Congress. If you see, what has happened is that, of course, the polls are going only in November 13th, and you talked of anti-incumbency. The fact is that current Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao, who is the hero of Telangana, has done 2 terms. He's searching for the 3rd term in that one. He won a massive 47% votes, while the Congress got barely 28% last time in 2018. And so the TRS, or the new name, the Bharat Rashtra Samiti, which won 68 seats, and the Congress only 19 seats of the total of 90. But what is the reason you feel? I mean, what is your tracker showing? And is the Congress putting up a good fight? Is there a chance for the Congress to actually create an upset in Telangana?
Well, in one line, Raj, Telangana is a state for the Congress to lose.
I see.
And
it's the other way around. Right.
We have discussed so many times the Congress's ability to snatch the defeat from the jaws of victory. I wouldn't be surprised that comes into the play, because all said and done, the data has been for quite some time in the if you look into the January 22,
right.
August 22, and then January 23 and August 23 numbers of MOTM.
Right.
In the last 2 years, Telangana's chief minister's ranking actually gradually shifted from top to the bottommost category. That was a very evident sign of things not going rosy, or rather, shall I say, pinky, because that's the color that BRS has on the ground. It's not really the pinkish shade of the health, public opinion.
It's not in the pink of health. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. It's not pink of the health.
Right.
It's not pink of the health. However, there are certain very, very crude equations which are in place, I hear plenty of the time that if the Muslims could go away towards Congress, it's done case for the Congress. No, it's wrong. For a simple reason. First of all, Telangana has about 10-12% of the Muslim voters. They are highly concentrated in the walled city.
Right.
In the Hyderabad region.
Correct.
They are not equally distributed across the state. So that is the point number one. In the concentrated areas, in the concentrated city, it is the AIMIM which is playing.
Right.
And AIMIM is not giving candidates outside their own comfort zone, which would have otherwise eaten into the BRS votes. And Asaduddin Owaisi, for all practical matters, has been a good non-formal alliance partner for BRS.
Correct.
All right. So, this Muslim angle of Telangana somehow is not really analyzed in the practical context.
Right.
In that.
I just want to bring, since you mentioned Muslim, not just in Telangana, what is how is this whole Middle East situation where, Israel and the Gaza situation playing out? Is that having a blowback on the elections? Is there any party gaining out of it? The BJP took a stand quite clearly, backing Israel, of course, then balanced it out subsequently. The Congress took a strong stand in some centers condemning Israel for the attacks, then subsequently realized it had to condemn Hamas, so it came up with a balance. Where is that, how is it playing out now in the current state elections?
I think Congress took the stand keeping Telangana politics in mind, not even the national politics in mind. I mean, that is what their knee-jerk reaction was. That's what I feel. Because in the old Hyderabad region, we saw AIMIM pulling out huge rally in favor of Palestine, that is their core constituent bloc. All right. Congress wanted to do that. However, I think what they did it for a very short-term gain might end up having a negative impact for them in a long-term Lok Sabha perspective.
Right.
For a simple reason, and I have been stating this now, India, it's perfectly okay for you to be pro-Muslim and win elections in India.
Right.
We have seen so many, from Mamata Banerjee to Arvind Kejriwal to Stalin to everybody.
Right.
There are big number of pro-Muslim CMs who have won the election after election with Hindu votes, majority of them voting for them.
Right.
Right. So there is no problem if you are seen a pro-Muslim politician. The problem starts when you are branded or start looking on as an anti-Hindu politician.
Right. Or an anti-Hindu party as well. Yes.
Anti-Hindu party, exactly. So I think the problem with the Hamas situation and the Israel situation is, I genuinely believe people are not really pro-Israel per se.
Right.
But people are anti-terror for sure.
Yeah.
And the images that came out after October 7, they kind of reignited the images of Mumbai attack or what used to happen in Kashmir Valley and so on and so forth. And we know for sure that every big city in India has a history of one or the other blast, smaller or bigger, in the last few decades, I think taking a pro-Palestine stand without condemning Hamas was not a very prudent thing to do.
Okay. Okay. And you think it will have some impact on the elections in terms of the perception the Hindu voters might have in terms of the Congress party? That's what you're trying to get at.
I think it will not be the issue where people will decide, but it will certainly add up to the branding of Congress being an anti-Hindu party somehow, which the Congress leaders are putting their efforts, all the efforts to fight that branding and come out of
Right.
that. Right. And that is not going to happen. Whether it will have an impact on this election, that I'm not very sure, because somehow when the people have a mood made up, and particularly with the regional leaders who are very clear of not getting branded with the Congress national party image and keep an intact for their own personal image as a regional leader or a regional party. So Mr. Paghel, Mr. Kamal Nath, for that matter, even Mr. Gehlot, he has been saying all the right things which he should be saying, that is something which is important for us to understand. However, something tells me, looking at the snap poll results that we conducted, that people could largely see through the Congress very first resolution, and the fact that they came up with a rejoinder later as a damage control, people could see through that as well. So that might not help them in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, we need to study how this will impact it. And as you said, may not be the determining factor. Two final things. We've run out of time virtually, but there are two final things. One is, in Telangana itself, the BJP had fashioned itself as the sort of challenger to that. That role seems to be diminished now, and the Congress seems to be the prime challenger. And from whatever you're saying, what is your tracking showing in terms of the BJP strategy? Is it going to be, at the end of the day, there's a lot of talk of how they could become the silent partner of the BRS, as called TRS earlier, so that the Congress is defeated. So they are, playing the game so that they can keep the balance and ensure that they think maybe KCR is better than the Congress ruling Telangana. Is this something that is validated by some of your findings?
Raj, this is the second time in 30 years that BJP has lost Telangana. Way back in 1998, the BJP on its own, in 1998 Lok Sabha polls, BJP polled 20% votes in Andhra Pradesh United. And I did the calculation. If you talk about the present day Telangana, 1998 BJP vote share in present day Telangana was approximately 32%. They gave it on a platter when they got into alliance with TDP. And that is where, the present chief minister got a sense of it. There is an opportunity and he jumped on it. Now, the entire core support base of the BJP went lock, stock and barrel to BRS. They had taken in the last 5 years anti-BRS stand, and they had started getting a huge traction. You remember in the last year's MOTN at this point of time, we were looking at the BJP trending roughly about 27-28% in Telangana. And that has crash landed because somehow the message went that BJP and BRS are hand in gloves.
So that really damaged their chances.
It has damaged their brand of positioning themselves as anti-BRS party.
Right.
Now, funny thing is, while BRS and the BJP both were taking in anti-Congress voters for sure,
Right.
but 10 years being in power, there is a new vote bank in Telangana which is anti-BRS.
Ah.
So the anti-Congressism in Telangana has now changed to anti-BRS.
I see.
And this is where BJP lost the plot.
And the Congress has benefited out of that thing.
Absolutely.
So your
Congress
tracker
has
is showing
Raj purely on the meltdown of the BJP at this point.
And your tracker is showing that TRS might scrape through, or is it, where is it at the balance at the moment? I mean, things could change, of course, as it gets towards November 30th. But where is it, where?
Well, the numbers are showing a mood for change. But again, the management of election
Right.
is a very critical thing.
Right.
I will not be surprised that even after with so much of anti-incumbency, the BRS somehow manages in the end because of the resources, because of their leadership. If he suppose comes down to a campaign where he says, "This is my last election,"
and
that
the
kind
whole
of
thing
emotional appeal,
Right.
Something of that sort, and the Congress infighting.
Right.
Congress has been horrible in ticket distribution so far. We have seen so much of it. They have not put up a face.
Correct.
Somehow. Revant Reddy is the clear-cut face that Telangana people were saying. Right. They could have easily gone ahead and given the face that, okay, this is the guy here, but they haven't. So infighting is there.
And I guess they got a little worried about the fact that the BJP said, oh, we'll do an OBC chief minister because the Reddys dominate the BRS. In terms of ticket distribution, they're only 7% of this, but they get something like 39 seats out of this thing. So there is that issue. I just quickly want, you've finished the point on Telangana, please. Thank you.
Just quickly one thing that, if the BJP continues to slide further in the next, because Telangana election on 27th of November, please remember, then the problem BRS will increase. So it's a catch-22 situation for the BJP, because if they want to retain or take their vote share up, they have to go all-out attack against the BRS.
And that's a very interesting battle to watch. We still have plenty of time to go. There's almost close to a month before they can, vote there in Telangana. Finally, just a quick word about Zoramthanga, and Mizoram. And will the Mizo National Front actually win again? And secondly, any impact of Manipur, flashing in, because the BJP is seen in some senses has a major problem in Manipur and not able to handle that situation. That is the perception.
Well, Manipur crisis has certainly reignited the Mizo identity politics, because we know Mizoram is very, very uniquely placed at not just the same tribal clan population coming from Manipur to Mizoram, but also from Burma. And the issue of NRC is a big thing. So somehow the emotion, the numbers that we are collecting, somehow the emotion is that they understand that NRC is an important thing to do, but they somehow find it conflicting with the Mizo identity, and they want to open up for refugees, which they know in a longer run would be harming for the state, but somehow they are in an emotional dilemma. So how it is playing out in a political line is that that there is a new party which contested last time for the first time, that has kind of taken up the imagination for sure, but that is unfortunately again splitting the opposition votes. So the anti-incumbency votes are not going lock, stock and barrel to the Congress. So in the urban areas, this is the JPM which is picking up the anti-Zoramthanga vote share, or MNF vote share, anti-MNF vote share in the Congress, which is in the rural areas. But somehow this split of the opposition vote is what eventually come out as a status quo.
For Zoramthanga, that's beneficial to him on this one.
Possible, yeah.
Just one little quick point on if the fact that the Congress for some reason sweeps through Madhya Pradesh, gets Chhattisgarh, maybe pulls off a miracle in Rajasthan and a miracle in Telangana. How much of this will impact the BJP? We saw last time that though BJP lost the 3 states, it swept the Lok Sabha seats in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. Would that phenomenon repeat itself? And you see Mr. Modi's popularity, even if it is dented because of state losses, would that have an impact? What is the trend showing in your tracker?
In the tracker, Mr. Modi's popularity is pretty much intact in all these states. So, one thing is very clear. When we said about the split vote in 2018 election, we were projecting and giving the national mood plus Prime Minister's mood side by side. People were asking, why are you giving these? And I said that we are giving this to make you understand these elections are not going to have any impact whatsoever a few months down the lane in the Lok Sabha election, and that the same thing is happening, continuing again. There is almost like 10 to 15% of reverse swing from the same sample, same respondent, when we ask, whom would you have voted for if the Lok Sabha elections would have happened?
Wow. And they say that Mr. Modi is...
Oh yeah, it's almost like 10 to 15% reverse swing in just the opposite direction. So I believe that the same pattern will continue. I don't see Rajasthan or Madhya Pradesh or Chhattisgarh, even if Congress wins all 3 of them, I see from the same set of data, the BJP is sweeping. If the Lok Sabha, if there was one election, one nation, one election right now, Congress might have won many of the states and still lost the Lok Sabha in the same day voting.
So it is Mr. Modi continues to be, despite the fact that there could be setbacks for them in the state elections, nationally, Mr. Modi continues to be the prime candidate to become the next Prime Minister, if your tracker is showing that. Exactly. Rahul Gandhi, despite the fact that the Congress might do well, has a lot of picking up to do if he has to challenge Mr. Modi. That's the general reading that is there. Am I right? Is that
absolutely back on?
But
absolutely.
This is, Yashwant, I know we could continue. This is such a fascinating subject. But we are all eagerly waiting these results to come out soon on December 3rd, I think is when they want to do that. I want to thank you for these really valuable insights. You always bring such a fresh perspective and you back it with your tracking. Thank you very much for that. For more details, you could read India Today magazine, which has in the past 2 weeks carried in-depth reports on the subject. Thank you for being with me on this show and this episode of Nothing But the Truth. I look forward to having you with me next week. Nothing but the truth.